and we're going to come and talk to you about our favorite novels, our current favorite novels. And we're going to give Emmadora the spotlight first to talk about her novel.
Alrighty, well, my favorite book is Time and Again by Jack Finney. One of my favorite books because it's hard to choose just one. And it tells the story of this guy named Cy who's recruited by the U.S. Army in 1970 for a secret government project. The Army is experimenting with time travel, seeing if changing little things will change the big course of history, or if no matter what happens, history will somehow find a way to right itself, and whatever happened will always happen no matter what he does to try and change it. So Cy, the main character, goes back to 1882 because his friend has this mysterious half-burned letter from that year, so there's kind of a mystery to be solved there. They time travel by, like, hypnotizing themselves, which is kind of weird, but it's like time is a state of mind, so I don't know, it's kind of weird, but it works when you read the book. The neat part is that the book is illustrated. So here's an example, just like a picture on a page. The main character is a sketch artist, so he kind of sketches what he sees, and then one of his trips back, he brings a camera. And then they use photos from that time period to kind of give you an idea throughout the book. And there's also a love interest that he meets in the past, but I won't say anything about that. I won't spoil it, but it's a really good book, and it's a really satisfying ending, so it's my favorite. Now to Bro.
Hello. One of my all-time favorite books or whatever is A Wrinkle in Time. I had to read this for 5th grade English class, and I think this was the first book that really got me excited about reading. And we read it as a class, partly in class, but we also had reading outside of class. And this was the book where I just read ahead as fast as I could, and I finished it before everybody else. I can't find my current copy of the original Wrinkle in Time, but I have this. It's the graphic novel. The original story's by Madeline L'Engle, and this graphic novel is adapted and illustrated by Hope Larson. And here's what some of it looks like, the artwork. All right, so A Wrinkle in Time is it's a young adult sci-fi fantasy novel. Like all good tales, the book opens up on a dark and stormy night. And follows our main character, Meg Murray, as she copes with the strange disappearance of her father. Both of Meg's parents are famous scientists, and her father was in the middle of experimenting with a fifth way through dimension of traveling through time and different dimensions and planets and stuff. And that's what he was working on when he disappeared. With the help of 3 women, Meg, her younger brother, Charles Wallace, and a friend in Meg's class, Calvin O'Keefe, go on this adventure of a lifetime and try and help and bring the Murray's father back home safely. It's really good. I enjoyed the writing. I definitely identified with Meg. We both felt at the time misunderstood. And the way that they described her, her hair was the same. She wore glasses. I do too. Currently wearing contacts, and then I had just gotten braces and she had braces too. And I don't know. She started off as like I said, a misunderstood and meek character. She was shy and stuff, and I definitely was too. But throughout the story, she becomes a stronger person because of what she's experienced on this awesome adventure that her and her friends and family go on to help her save her father. All right, time for you, Air.
All right, so my favorite book is Wild Magic by Tamara Pierce. and it's the first in a series, and it takes place in Tamara Pierce's kingdom of Tortal, which I love that she kind of has so many stories built into this one world. And so Wild Magic is about a young girl named Dane. You can see her on the cover. She has her pony, and she's 13 years old in the novel, and she ends up meeting the royal her horse mistress who's taking ponies to Tortal, and she asks for a job. And she's not given it right away, but she proves herself and eventually gets to go on this journey back to the city. What we find out in the book is that Dane is magical, as the title suggests, wild magic. It's not the same kind of magic you see in everybody else who's in the novels in previous series that she wrote, or even in the novel itself. And so you get to see that she's a bit different than everybody else, and it's basically a series of how she grows into her magic and how she comes to realize who she is and how she struggles with it, but also eventually overcomes any struggles, and she becomes a very key person in the Tortal series. And so I really loved it because she was 13 at the time, and I was around 13 when I first picked it up, so I really connected with the main character. I love that the author has strong female characters. And as I said, this was one of the first books I read in Tamara's series, and it just got me hooked on all her books and her kingdom. I'm a big fan of young adult and fantasy novels, so it was really an important book in my life. And I've gone through and read all of her novels now, and I'm continuing to read them because she's still writing, and they're great books. I would recommend them to anyone if you love young adult and fantasy novels. That's all I have to say on that one. So either of you have anything else to say before we wrap up our first vlog?
No.
Nope.
All right, well then we'll see you all next time for the next vlog.
Bye.
Bye.